How's it going, ScrubGamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and we are back with our Understanding How to Build series, where we go over all the leaders in a given set, and then help you understand how to build them to suit you and your playstyle. Now, we did this for set 1 and for set 2, and now with set 3, just having released this past weekend. At least for pre-release anyway. We've gone back into it to kind of help you understand how to build it, because with new leaders comes new different ways to play, and this was a series that a lot of people found helpful and useful, so I thought I'd keep continuing it, and we're going to do it for this one. Now we're going to do what we do like with the previous ones, where we go over each of the leaders in the order, so we go from the blue to the green to the red and to the yellow, and you start with the dark side and light side. So we're starting off with Nalase being the first one of the Vigilance leaders in the Villainy trait. So remember, if you do enjoy the series and like the series, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. It keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop, and by clicking the notification bell, you can then get alerts when my videos do drop, so you can watch them there then, or at a later time that suits you best. So now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and help you understand how to build Nalase. So, like we always do, we're going to start off with the leader, because it's best to understand what the leader wants to do, because some are very generic in what they want to do, like just have an effect that doesn't really require any kind of certain trait or anything like that, and other ones that require a certain kind of playstyle or trait to revolve around, because it's a leader-based game. Every deck is normally built around the leader at first. And with Nalase, she's very similar to Hera in terms of what she wants to do, because when she's in the leader area, she does nothing outside of provide you with more cards you can play with, due to the fact that she ignores acid penalty and stuff. And just like how Hera ignored the acid penalty on any Spectre cards, so I had the Spectre trait, this leader is similar to that, because her effect is to ignore the acid penalty on clone units you play. So she does the same as Hera, but towards the clone trait rather than Spectre. She's all about focusing, well, she's not all about focusing on clones, but gives you more benefit of allowing you to play not only any cards in blue and Villainy, but also whatever aspect you get you for your base. But also, outside those ones where you normally incur the aspect penalty, you can have clones that don't fit into the aspects you provided with your leader and base. So, she doesn't do absolutely anything, but when she's in the area, but she does provide you with that benefit. Well, she doesn't have any traits that kind of give you any benefit either, because she's just got the Kaminoan trait, so that doesn't have anything to benefit from. So essentially, she does the same thing as Hera, provides you with more cards in deck building wise, and technically playing wise as well, and doesn't offer any traits, but she does deploy very early, because she deploys at 4 resources, like same as Sabine. So one of the, I think now 4 leaders that can deploy as early as turn 3. And her stats aren't massive, but she does have some durability, because she comes down with 1 power, which is probably the weakest so far. Well, you could say it's stronger than Kira, that's right, but she Kira gives herself more power based on her because of her effect. But she has a huge amount of health. It's 7 health, so she can stick around. If you put any upgrades on it to upgrade the health, she can stick around, so you can gain more benefits from her when she's deployed than when she's in the leader area. Because, like I said, she doesn't do anything in the leader area outside having a permanent effect that allow you to play clones without incurring the acid penalty. But when she's deployed, she gains you an additional effect, much like Hera did for Spectres. So when she deploys as early as turn 3 at 4 resources, she's 1/7, and she still has the ignore the acid penalty on clone units you play, but she now has an additional effect, which is each friendly clone unit gains the effect of, when defeated, heal 2 damage from your base. So it turns all your clones into essentially healing whenever they're taken out. So if your opponent tries to keep taking out your clones, or you keep ramming your clones into their units, when they're defeated while she's in play, well, when I say in play, I mean actually deployed, she gives you a bit of heal, which is pretty cool, which is nice. You expect that to get that from Vigilance, and it turns basically all your clones into potential heal by just ramming. So if you're just going aggro into their base and they try to manage that by taking out units, you're basically healing your base. Or if they're going aggro into your base, you can then kamikaze your units, your clone units anyway, into their units to take them out, and then healing your base in the process as well. So that's pretty cool. So pretty useful there. It's like a lot more useful than Hera, because she deployed so early at 4 resources rather than 6 like Hera does. Now, she doesn't have the best stats, but then she provides also a pretty useful effect, much like Hera kind of does, but she can come out earlier, and also you can stick around because she's got a lot bigger, a lot more health, and by putting an upgrade on, you can kind of keep her around as well. So she's not too bad. So if you want to focus on like a purely clone deck, then she could be pretty good. but then she's also got another benefit over her in having good aspects, because one of the things is you can play very good with control if you play the dark side for blue and green, because they got a lot of good control cards like Overwhelm Barrage, Paradox, things like events, and also units as well. So you can incorporate some clones of that, but also have that good control stuff on the dark side of blue. And also, don't forget that they do have a showcase, and this is now to say it's pretty cool. I feel like the showcases for this new set have been upgraded a lot better. Like they look a lot nicer. Like in the the first two sets, the showcases it's pretty nice. Like any like new upgraded like art for a leader is only pretty good. Like you get in any game. But the ones in set one, like there's like only like a very small handful that were actually really nice, like really nice looking, like really cool. But in this set, like a load of them look really good. Like the art is like upgraded into this set, and it's just amazing. And Nanase actually does look pretty cool. Not the best, but still looks pretty cool art-wise as well. Remember, art is always subjective, so if you like it, that's fair enough. If you don't like it, it's fair enough. It's always what you depends on you. But I feel like it's a pretty cool one. So that's the leader, and remember, no leader is without its base. And just like with set 1 and set 2, we have both rare bases and common bases. And common bases are all just 30 health bases where you just have no effect, you just have 30 health in your base, and it's just a nice art. You have a nice art that you fully see, especially in this full artist, but also the maximum amount of health. Whereas the rare bases, they have slightly less health, at varying degrees now, because we've got the new ones in this set, but they provide you with an effect. And with the first lot of rare bases in set 1, they provide you with an epic action, which is actually you take once per game whenever you can or wherever you want to, but then you can, once you use it, that's it, it's gone, and the bases will 25 health. But with this new set, we've got another 4 rare bases, one in each aspect, and they come with different health, being varying from 24 to 26 health, so like still slightly less than, well, a little bit less than the normal bases, provide you effects that are more that trigger either are continuous effects or trigger at a certain point, more like mostly when you're deploying a leader. So you got the option of a rare base, which is less health but have an effect, or vanilla bases, which are just 30 health with no effect, but just pretty nice art. So as an example, some of these you've got like the rare bases. These are all ones from set 3, so from set 3 onwards. In terms of like what's released, so you got this set. You only got set 1 bases being the top row, and the set 3 bases, which is from the third set, in the bottom row. Set 2 did not include any new rare bases, which was good. It was pretty good. Pretty good in the stance that we don't want too many rare bases. I'm sure a lot of options are good, but then sometimes you just get bases that just never use and just waste space. And also, like as most probably if you've experienced opening boxes from set 3 as well as set 1, sometimes they take up your rare slot when you want. It's just rare. You can only have one of these, play one of these at a time, and then there's some rares you might want, so they do take up some rare space. It just does suck. Like if it took up if it just took up the base slot, that'd be pretty cool. But they actually do take up the rare slot. So these are the rare bases. You've got 2 in each now. So you've got 2 blue, 2 green, 2 red, and 2 yellow. And for the top row are the set 1 ones, which all had 25 health, but then give you an epic action. So you have around gaining shield to a non-leader unit for blue, give place something out 6 costs or less, still paying the cost, and give it ambush for that phase for green. Be able to deal 3 damage to a non-leader unit for red, and then giving a non-leader unit -4 power for that phase in yellow. So same health across the board, and also effects that take up an action, but you can use at any point. But for the set 3 bases, you've got something different, a little bit different. So you got various amounts of health. So you got 24 for the green one, 25 for the red, and then 26 for the blue and yellow. Now the blue and yellow are ones that are just permanent effects that basically just are in effect constantly throughout the game, and they're all about giving stats to your leader. So they both have the effect that each leader you control gains a stat boost, and for the blue one, it gives you an extra 1 health to your leader while your leader is in play, and the yellow one gives an extra 1 to your power on a leader while he's in play. So you got defense, like health for blue and power for yellow. You both have 26 health, and they're basically just effects all the time. And then for the other 2, they both trigger when your leader's deployed. So Droid Manufacturer is 24 health, so the lowest health base in the game at the moment. But when you deploy a leader, you get to create 2 Battle Droid tokens, which are very handy for just having more units in play for, say, Coordinate, a new keyword skill in set 3, which requires you to have 3 or more units in play to trigger that effect it's attached to. And also for the dark side, because that's the light side one, you got the exploit, which allows you to kill off some units, and for every unit you kill, you reduce the cost of your unit you're playing by 2. And it's a very racing exploit. You can have it exploit 1, 2, 3, things like that. So you can make your next thing you play cheaper by killing off your current units on play. And battle droids are perfect for that, especially like that's why the token units are in there. And you got Shadow Collected Camp, which is the same health as the old rare bases, and it's also 25 health. And its effect is just when you deploy a leader, you draw a card. So it gives you a bit of card draw, and that's nothing amazing. It probably would seem amazing in other games, but in this game, it's not too amazing, but it could be useful depending. But essentially, the older rare bases are more good for competitive play. They offer some really good effects. All of them been used that I've seen so far throughout the game. But for the set 3 rare bases, they're more focused on, because of how they're worded and how they look, well, how they're worded and how they work, they're more for Twin Suns. So like Pal City, because it says each leader and you get 2 leaders in Twin Cities, you get more benefit. And with deploying a leader, you can deploy 2 leaders in Twin Suns because you've got 2 of them, so you can get more benefit from those. So they're more Twin Suns focused rare bases, whereas the set 1 ones are more competitive ones. And then you've also got the vanilla bases. Essentially, they're all the same. All the vanilla bases are the same. They're all 30 health, and they just offer a different location. So basically, these ones you just pick. If you're playing for a 30 health base, you just pick the one you like the look of in that aspect you want, and then play with it. So pretty standard for that. And then we come to the next part. Here we have the aspects. So these are the 6 different aspects you can have in the Star Wars Unlimited card game. And these are ones that you either have attached to your leader or base or both. So you have the 4 main aspects, being the color ones, which give you, which is ones you can have across your base as well as your leader. And you have the 2 other aspects, which are normally the good and bad sides of the Force. And these essentially give you the aspects you can play without incurring the aspect penalty, which we'll go over in a bit. But these are all different ones, so you can gain one of the 2 lighter dark side ones on your leader plus one of the color ones, and then one of the color ones from your base. So you'll get access to 3 aspects among your leader and base, and these are all the benefits of them, because you've got different ones. You've got blue being Vigilance, you've got green being Command, red Aggression, yellow is Cunning, black is Villainy, and white is Heroism. So these are all the aspects you give, and there's a reason behind each aspect. They all play a different role. So, for example, Vigilance. This is one that allows you to play defensively with the ability to heal damage, remove dangerous units from play, and protect your base from any attacks. This aspect is perfect for players who like patient play styles and that can endure even the deadliest assaults. So this is something you'll get straight away from Nalase, and this is one of the aspects you get provided from her. Now with the base, you get access to one of the other ones, or a second Vigilance if you want to. And when the other ones is is green being Command. And this one, it allows you to accelerate your resources and call upon lots of units or strengthen the units you have in play. And this aspect is the one of choice for players who want to overwhelm their opponents with massive board presence, or even ramp up the resources to plow out bigger things quicker. So that is what you get from Command. And then we got Aggression, which kind of is given in a name, kind of a little bit, because this one allows you to attack with maximum efficiency and deal out lots of damage through effects or by attacking. And this is an aspect that is a great fit for players who prefer fast plays, fiery play styles that want to break through your opponent's defenses and hold damage and achieve victory at any cost. So this is one that, given for its name, is very aggressive because it's more about dealing damage across units and to base as well. And then we've got the next one, yellow, being Cunning. Now this is one that wants to adapt to any situation on the fly with powerful and immediate effects, and have lots of tools for disrupting your opponent's game plans. This aspect is a perfect fit for players who want to respond quickly to threats and have an answer for almost anything your opponent can throw your way. And that is yellow. So these are the aspects that you can get always on a leader and also on your bases. And then you also got the other 2 aspects, Villainy and Villainy and Heroism, which are ones that you have access to from your leader. So first one you got is Villainy. So this is one that wants to battle for ultimate power with cards that feature the antagonists of the Star Wars series. And this is an aspect that's perfect for players who want to command huge armies or with powerful destructive effects. And this is also, and as like I said, this is an aspect that is often paired with another aspect on a card, but also can be paired on its own. You have cards that are just Villainy or are normally paired with one of the other color aspects. And then we've got Heroism. So this is one that wants to fight for justice and peace with cards that feature the protagonists of the Star Wars series. and this is an aspect that's great for players who want to want their cards to support and protect each other, but also personally attack, so being more very aggressive. And this is similar to Villainy, and where the aspect is often paired with another aspect on a card, so you can get cards that are just heroism aspect, or paired with either one of the color ones there. So those are the 6 aspects you have access to. So immediately with Nalase, you have access to Vigilance and Villainy. Now when you pair it with your base, you have access to one of the other aspects, being a never Vigilance or Command, Aggression, or Cunning. And those give you the access to these different aspect combinations. So there are 4 different combinations, because with your leader you provided the first 2, Villainy and Vigilance, being black and blue. And with a base you can either have the double blue aspect combination, blue-green, blue-red, or blue-yellow. So either Vigilance Command, which is blue-green, Vigilance and Aggression, blue-red, and then Vigilance and Cunning, which is blue-yellow. And these all give you the aspects you use throughout the game, because remember, you can play put whatever you want in your deck and play whatever you want. But when it comes to actually playing the cards, then the aspects kind of differ. What kind of matters then, because there's the aspect penalty, and that is what we're going to explain next, and that is this. So we got a handy dandy guide, because I thought it'd be better to kind of show it rather than just explain it with like our kind of a little bit of visual. So here we have the aspect combination of Nalase with a green base to Poker City, and this will give the aspects of black, blue, and green, because you've got the black and blue from your leader and the green from your base. So these are the aspects you have access to. Now, if you want to play a card, if on the card it is just blue, just green, just black, or a combination of blue, green, or black, blue, or black, green, then you can play them without any additional cost of paying for what's the cost on the card. But if you want to play a card that is just red, just yellow, just white, or it still has a black aspect but also has red or yellow, or has the blue or green aspect but also has a white aspect, or is double blue or double green, you have to pay an extra 2 additional resources on top of its cost. So if a card would cost 3, it now costs 5, because one of those aspects doesn't match what's on your leader base. So basically, if you have something that's got red, yellow, or white on it, that aspect won't match what's on your leader base. You have to pay 2 for that. So even if you've got a black aspect with a red, if you've got a card that's both black and red, the black aspect matches, so that's covered. Because the red aspect doesn't, you have to pay an extra 2 on top. Same with if you want to play a card that's blue or green, but also white on it, you have to pay extra 2 because the white aspect doesn't match what's in your leader base. And the same goes with double aspects, because while each aspect provides only 1, you need to have 2 blue aspects you want to play a double blue. So where the 1 blue aspect analysis will cover 1 blue aspect, because you don't have another blue among your leader and base, you have to pay an extra 2 to cover that second aspect. So having just 1 blue aspect will cover 1 of the 2 for a double blue card, but you have to pay an extra 2 to cover the second blue one, because every aspect gives only 1 of that aspect. So that's the aspect combination. These are the in the second box. These are aspect combinations. We have to pay an extra 2 with this aspect combination, with those leader base combination. Now, if you want to play a card that is white and red, white and yellow, or is double red or double yellow with this aspect combination of leader and base, then you have to pay an extra 4 on top of the cost of that card, because none of those aspects match. You don't have any white or red aspect on this leader base combination, or white or yellow, or double red or double yellow. So if a card will cost 3, and it will have 2 yellow aspects on it, because you don't have any yellow aspects on your base, you need 2 for that. You have to pay an extra 4 on top, meaning a card that will cost 3 now costs 7 because of the aspect combination. So hopefully that makes sense for that. So hopefully that's helped you understand the aspect penalty. Now we'll go on to the next part of this video, and that is regarding your ratios. Because in this game, like with any game, you can play a certain amount of copies of any given card. There's currently no ban list. I don't know if there is going to be a ban list in this game. We'll have to find out when that point comes. But currently, you can play any 3 copies of any given card. So you can either play 3 copies of a card, 2 copies, or just 1 copy of any given card in your deck. And there are benefits to each different ratio. Now you might think you just want to put 3 copies of every card in, but sometimes you want maybe to have just 1 or 2 copies of, because you don't want too many copies for a certain reason. And I thought I'd include this basically to kind of go over it a little bit easier to explain, because I didn't have that in the previous ones, and that's why we're always upgrading this series, to make sure any feedback given or anything I do find myself, I try to use to upgrade this series. So first example, we'll go with 3 copies of a card. So this is the ratio to help maximize the likelihood of the desired card being in your hand when needed. And a good example of this is examples being cards to play on the first turn or cards you want to see multiple copies of over the course of the game. So for example here, we've got is Omega with Nalase, because remember, Omega is she doesn't have the aspects like we've got going over. She doesn't have the aspects that match on your leader. So you have to pay an aspect penalty because of Nalase's effect. Because she's got the clone trait, you would ignore the aspect penalty on it. So even though she has the aspects that don't match because of Nalase's effect, you can pair her without worrying about the aspect penalty. And she's a very handy one because she's a very good one to play turn 1 because she's a 2-cost card that, when played, allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck to find a clone, reveal it, and draw it to your hand. So a very nice card you could play turn 1. So you might want to play 3 copies of this card, so that way you can have something to play turn 1 and basically help with your strategy. Now we've got the next one being 2 copies of card. So this is usually the ratio for cards that aren't great to draw early in the game, but you still wanted to go through multiple copies over the course of the game. And examples of those being big boss cards or high costing cards. Like for example, we've got Rival's Fall. Rival's Fall being a very strong card because usually when you have an effect that wants to defeat a unit, so like basic KO or kill a unit, it normally comes with a restriction. Like if you've got like look at Takedown, Takedown can take out a unit, but it has to have 5 or less remaining health. So it can take out any unit, but at a restriction of 5 or less health. You've also got Rival's Fall. Follow the Dragon, which is another one that allows you to take out any non-leader unit, but it needs to have 5 or more power. Then you've got things like Vanquish, that allows you to take out any non-leader in the game, but it costs 5. So they normally your drawback is either it's cheaper, but has a kind of a requirement to it, or it's high costing, but then it's more powerful. Like with Rival's Fall here, it's a 6-cost event, so very high costing, but allows you to defeat any unit in the game. It could be one of your opponent's leader, or any unit in either arena. And sometimes you might not want to have this in your deck to basically take out your opponent's unit leader, because there's very few cards to take out your opponent's leader. But you don't want to have too many copies, so you might put 2, so that we can at least see one when you need it when your opponent comes to deploy, so you can use it straight away to take out the leader. And that brings us to the last one, being 1 copy of a card. So for 1 copy of a card, this is usually the ratio for cards that are added to a deck specifically in order to counter a specific situation. So it might be a specific situation that comes up that it might be useful for, and if it does show up and the situation comes up, you've got it. But if it doesn't show up, then you don't care you've drawn it, or if you do draw it, you can always resource it. So there's always that benefit there. And an example of this is being the card Restock, which you got shown in the picture. And this is added to decks to help counter hard control decks, because hard control decks are ones where they focus on just taking out units, controlling the game, and usually their main way to deal damage, because the only way you can win is by dealing damage to your base enough to match the health on the base, so do a 30 damage to a 30 health base, or things like that. And they usually do that by making sure, they control the game, waiting for you to deck out, so that way you don't have any more cards to draw. And in this game, when you can't draw any more cards during the regroup phase, you take 3 damage to your base for every card you can't draw. So since you draw 2 at the start of the turn, if you can't draw both of your cards, you take 6 damage, and then you usually use that much damage to kind of finish off at the end of the game. And Restock is a great way to kind of prevent that, because you can use it to choose up the 4 cards in your discard pile and put them at the bottom of your deck in a random order. And you might be able to put 4 cards that prevent you for 2 turns, but you can also choose itself. With how the game works, you can choose itself. So put back itself, Restock, and 3 other cards, and then when you draw back into it, keep doing that to avoid that kind of damage. Or even just put itself plus 1 other card, so you make sure you're always drawing those 2 cards, itself and another card, to get a card to your hand and get this back to keep playing over and over again to prevent that kind of damage. So that's a good example of the ratios. Hopefully that makes sense why you want to include 3, 2, or 1 copies on any given card. So that brings us to the next point, and that is the clones. Well, for Nalus anyway, the next point is covering the clones, because remember, the benefit of your lead is, it doesn't have an effect that you can really do much with. It gives you a kind of deck building and playing effect, which allows you to play any card with a clone trait in your deck and ignore the aspect penalty. So if a card would normally have the heroic trait, which you won't have because you're the villainy leader, you can ignore the aspects you can still play. So things like Tech, Omega, Wrecker, Jesse, these clones that you wouldn't be able to play in your deck normally, or wouldn't want to play in your deck normally, because it would incur the asset penalty, because it's on the other side, because a card can only be either a Villainy or Heroism. It can't be both, and well, both at the same time. So you would normally not include this, because it makes sure you're definitely getting extra 2 on top of their cost. Because now, say you can play all these without incurring aspect penalties, you can still play for the normal cost in this deck, which is pretty cool. And there are clones across all different aspect combinations, maybe a little bit less in our actual one of blue, but there's still clones in all different aspects. So you've got things like Infantry of the 212th being in blue. You've got multiple in green, like a lot in green, like Tactical Republic Tactical Officer, which is a good one to benefit the Republic trait, which is what a lot of the new clones have. You've got the 501st Liberator, which is one that heals as long as you control another Republic. Commander Cody, giving all ever units you control where you have 3 or more units on board, 1-1 to the stats and overwhelm. And also you've got Echo, that has one play when you play it, you can just kind of copy a card in your hand and give a card that has the same name as the one you discarded to experience to it. And you got Crosshair being a very good one that you would play normally in Nazi, but if you're not playing green, you can still play it with ignoring that aspect, which is cool. And you've got some nice ones in red, like Wolf being a cool one that's kind of prevent bases being healed for this phase. That'd be both yours and your opponent's, so do bear that in mind. You got Jesse being a very strong one, very good stats for its cost. But then when you play it, you give your opponent 2 battle draw tokens, which kind of mean nothing, or actually help them out if they got coordinates and stuff like that, or exploit. You got Wrecker being a very powerful one as well, being able to kill off one of your resources, so you can then deal 5 damage to a unit. Something that Darkseid would normally not be able to play. Omega is a turn 1 searcher for clones. You kind of help find this, kind of help film for your deck to kind of find things. You got them 5s being a one that can recycle clones, as well as having good stats for its cost, and then also giving you draw, recycle clones, and draw every time you play an event, which the Darkseid has a lot of good ones for. And then you got Tech being allowed to make your make your resources as like a second hand by giving them more smuggle, being their smuggle cost, 2 more than actual cost, and then their aspects as well. So really good clones for this. So that's something to bear in mind with Now we're going to start off with the aspects. We like to start off with the double aspect. So this is what you get with the double aspects. So remember, with the aspects, they give you access to the aspects you can play cards with. So any card you want to play, as long as it shares the aspects on your leader base, you won't incur the penalty. So if you go double blue for the aspects, you get access to all the Villainy cards, the blue cards, the blue and black cards, and then also the double aspects. And the thing with double aspect is in the first set, it was a kind of thing that only one leader of each aspect kind of had a good time to actually play, like had a benefit of playing. Whereas now with more aspects, we've got more of a card pool, more cards in all different aspects, and even double as well. So in the first set, only one leader of each aspect actually had the benefit of being good with the double aspect, but now with more, every leader's got the availability with that as well. And while you are reducing the amount of cards, you're cutting off a whole different aspect to have access to just these 9 cards. These 9 cards, plus with more blue cards, can have a benefit, because some of these are some double aspect cards are very powerful and worth going for the double aspect. So by going double blue, you're cutting yourself off all the command cards, aggression cards, or cunning cards, and incurring aspect penalty if you do play them by having access to these. But these could be worth it. Like from set 1, you had you got 3 in each set, and for the first set you had access to going double aspect, you had access to Bendu, Protector, and Vigilance. Now Vigilance being a very powerful card because it gave you 4 different options. You could choose any 2 of them and resolve them in any order. And like every aspect, they had a 2-cost event named after the aspect, and give you 2 of any of the 4 options on there. And you can't use the same option twice, but you can choose any of the 2 and resolve them, which is pretty cool. And that Vigilance is really good in either milling 6 from your opponent's deck, eating 5 from your base, defeating something that's got 3 or more health, or giving a shield 20 units. Very good options, and what is one of the best double aspect events in the game, even now. And you also had access to Bendu, which is like a very big costing sentinel, but then had a nice effect when it attacks. The next non-heroic or villainy card you play costs 2 less, kind of making you play something cheaper and earlier, potentially if it's bigger, and also being a very cool sentinel. And then you had Protector being an upgrade that you can pay for just 1, giving a 1/1 boost to a unit, and also giving it Sentinel, so allowing you basically give card Sentinel to help defend your other units in that arena or base. Now with set 2, they didn't provide any amazing ones, they provide some good ones. You got Sugi being a very good unit, a 4-cost 4/6 that can also be smuggled out, and if your opponent has anything upgraded, she gains Sentinel. It's pretty nice there. Second Chance being a very high costing upgrade to basically put onto any non-leader, and then it's got an effect where if it's defeated, you can play it back for free during that same phase. So basically revive it from the discard and pay nothing for it. So it's a high cost upgrade, but it allows you to basically put a kind of revival option on your big units if you want them, just in case you feel like they're going to be taken out. And you had Midnight Repairs being a very nice one, a 2-cost event that allows you to heal up to 8 damage across any number of units. So you can heal 8 damage across all your units to kind of keep them healthy. Even if they're like close to death, you can then heal them up so they're back to full health. Very nice card, very useful. And then for the set 3, we had some pretty new ones, and they're not really that great for W. They do increase what good stuff you have for blue. You have Finn being a 3-cost 3/4 that needs to complete an attack to then allow you to choose any unique unit. So it's got to have that little star in front of his name, and then make it so any damage it would be dealt this phase would be you prevent 1 of that damage. So like a very situational Boba's armor kind of effect, which isn't great, and there's so many better options for it, so it's not a great card. But if you're limited for in terms of cards you have access to, you could play, but it's not great. You also got Duchess Champion, which isn't a great one because it's very situational. It's a 4-cost 1/8, so not much power, but a lot of health, and it's very situational in the fact that if your opponent controls 3 or more units, it gains Sentinel. So if your opponent controls 2 or less units in play, it has nothing, it's just a 1/8. Doesn't do much damage, got a lot of bulk, but it is not a threat, so you don't have to worry about it, and it doesn't have a beneficial effect in Sentinel if they only have 2 or less units on. But if they're 3, it's a lot better. Doesn't do much damage, but still Sentinel. But if your opponent can manage the board, it's not great. And then we got Equalize. So this is a 3-cost event that allows you to give a unit -2/2 to their stats, so -2 power and -2 health. And then if you control fewer units than your opponent, you get to give another unit a different unit -2/2 for that phase. So essentially a worse Make an Opening, because Make an Opening is a 1 Vigilance aspect event. Same cost, free cost. Also does the same thing if giving a unit -2/2's phase, but the only other effect isn't given instead of giving another unit, potentially another unit -2/2, it heals 2 from your base. So you got an event that costs the same in less aspects from just 1 blue, doing the same guaranteed effect, but also guaranteeing you 2 heal from your base, and doesn't require the situational effect to give another unit -2/2, which might not even be enough to finish something else off. If it was give it -2/2 to the same unit, like giving it 3 cost, the minus by 4/4 whenever you want it to, was pretty cool. But since it has to be another unit, it's not that great. So set 3 didn't give anything beneficial to double aspects for blue, but you still have some pretty powerful cards: Vigilance, Bendu, Protector, Midnight Repairs, Second Chance. So you got some good options. But I'm not sure that's the best way to go for Nalase. But because normally you want to pair it with green for the good aspects in dark, but we'll see what we've got available. So that was double aspect. Now we're going to move on to the next one. So this is usually something I cover at the end of the video when I've done the previous series, but I thought it's actually better to cover it first because we like to cover the double aspect to kind of explain why there is a benefit of playing double aspect and what that is. It's also best to kind of start first before we go in the other aspect combinations, what the other aspects that a base provides for your leader base combo, and just go over what the leader's aspects provide you. So for Nalase, it's blue and black. So we're going to go over the cards that are basically just blue or blue and black to kind of explain. So we start with the dark side first, with the blue-black cards. And these are the ones you can kind of get. And if you do go for a base, here's the rare bases you can play. So either a Security Complex or Pal City. So they both give you a benefit. So Pal City will make Nalase a 1/8 when she deploys. And Security Complex provides you with a shield once a game, provides you with a shield on any non-leader unit by taking an action you want to. Now you have less health in your base, but given that blue is very defensive and and has a lot of healing, you can kind of make do with it and have more health than you would normally than every aspect would have. But also you have some pretty nice aspect or cards in this aspect combination, and some very nice ones you can play early in the game, mid to game, end game, some very powerful effects. Like for early game, you've got things like Inferno 4 and Dr. Pershing for very good turn 1 plays that provide you nice effects, like Inferno 4 allowing you to manage the top 2 cards of your deck by either when it's played or when it's defeated. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put any number on top and the bottom of your deck, so either both to the bottom, both to the top, or one on top, one on bottom, however you want. So you can kind of know what you're going to draw next, or even just get rid of them so you can kind of have something else you're going to draw that you don't know. And then Percy is a very nice one where every turn you can pay his action by tapping him and dealing 1 damage to a friendly unit, could be himself or another friendly unit you control, to draw a card. So this is pretty nice to just get that turn 1 and then basically keep using the draw. And the longer he stays there, the more cards he's going to give you, which can give you more options to like resource and just play. So very good ones you can have for first turn. You got the ones in the mid game. You've got like Morgan Elsbeth and Lieutenant Charlton. Charlton being a very good one, more focused if you got having more blue cards than anything else, because his effect revolves around more blue cards. Because when he's played, he's got Sentinel, but when he is played, you can reveal the 4 blue cards from your hand, and then for each card you do reveal that way, you give an experience to him. So you can give. He's normally a 2/2. But depending on how many blue cards you reveal using effect, you can give him more experience. You can turn it out to a maximum of a 6/6 and Sentinel if you reveal 4 blue cards. Now, for a 4 cost being 6/6, Sentinel is very, very strong, and is why he's played in a lot of blue decks that have Vigilance that are mostly blue. You have Morgan Elsbeth being a new one from set 3. A nice card, a 4 cost 3/6, pretty good stats, a fortune as well. Also one of the few cards in the Villainy side that have Restore 1. Meaning that when she attacks, she heals 1 from your base. And she has a nice way to kind of give you more draw as well by having a, on attack, when you attack, you defeat one of your friendly units, and if you do, draw a card. Now this is great because it helps you trigger any cards that have when defeated effects, or be on a way to kind of just give you more draw by sacrificing cards that are just close to being defeated, or are not useful, like say Battle Troy tokens be a good example. Very nice card, and very good stats for a cost as well. Now for the later game, you have some pretty powerful cards like Supreme Leader Snoke and Avenger being very strong cards, very high costing, very good. Like Snoke is an 8 cost 6/6, not the best stacks for its cost, but makes up for its effect, being that every enemy non-leader unit has loses 2 power and 2 health while he's on board. So while he's a 6/6, even cards that are normally on your opponent's side, 6/6 or 7/7, can't touch him and finish him off because he reduces their stats by 2/2. So it means if your opponent has any units that have only 2 health left, they're just going to be defeated because they didn't go down to having lower health. And then if they got damage on, that means their new health stat, then they get defeated. So very good effect and very hard to remove, and a problem against a lot of decks that have low costing units or low health units. And your Avenger being a very powerful one, and 9 cost 8/8, so slightly more costly than Snoke, but a bit more powerful. But it was very powerful because it's in space, which is not where most of the fights are held. Most battles are, well, most units are played in the ground arena, and also it's got a very powerful effect because when it's played or when it attacks, it forces your opponent to defeat one of their non-leader units. They get to choose, but they got defeated. So you swing, basically you play it or attack with it, and your opponent's then got to defeat any one of the units that's not the leader. So if they've got to do 1 unit that's not the leader, they have to defeat that. They got their choice. But if they got multiple, they have more of a choice to basically get rid of the one they least care about. And you've also got that in some of the events as well, because you've got some powerful events in the Dark Side of Blue, and you've got things like Power Dark Side has the same effect of Avenger, but cheaper in effect. But also once again, your opponent chooses. So if your opponent's got less units on board, they've got less of an option. But also this also allows you to help still defeat leaders, which is a very powerful effect. Powerful part of it is this is where you can defeat your opponent's leader. If they keep it just on board, leader on its own, you can take it out with this, which is something that a lot of cards can't really do. But if your opponent's got a lot of units on play, they can always just get rid of the one they care about the least, meaning they've got a better choice and better options for it. So it kind of varies depending on how powerful it is, depending on how many cards your opponent has on board. And you've got Super Laser Blast being a very powerful event, a very high cost of an 8, but defeats every unit on play, both yours and your opponent. Very nice way to just clear the board, and one thing that you have to fear of when you're going against a blue-black leader or blue-black deck, because they can always just nuke the board whenever they feel like if they got this card included. So those are cards you have access to in the dark side, and then on the just non-dark side of blue, you have access to some pretty nice cards. Like once again, you have the vanilla bases, which basically are just very health bases, and the only difference is just the art on it. Like, you don't have any benefit of having so far. Well, currently there's no benefit of having a base that has a certain trait or trait like Mandalore Dagobah, like a location at the moment. So it's normally just your favorite art on a base if it's very health. But you also have some pretty nice cards in Vigilance. Like, you have some pretty pretty cool units. Not many amazing units in the non-heroic or dark side of Vigilance. Most of the best units are in the Villainy or dark side. But you have some cool ones. Like, you have Infantry here being a good one as a clone for the you can play, which is a free cost 2/4. But while you control 2 other units along with itself, it gains Sentinel, which is pretty nice. You also have some pretty nice upgrades like Electro Staff and Unshakable Will, being a new one for set 3, being upgrades that give a boost, so both of them give a 2 power and 2 health boost to a unit, and give effects as well. So Electro Staff is one that, what's attached to a unit, it takes one less damage when it's being attacked into. So when your opponent attacks into it with a unit, that unit has 1 less power when it attacks, so you take 1 less damage essentially. Then you got Unshakable Will, being also a one that is actually a high costing, a 4 cost upgrade, but gives a 2/2 to the stats and gives that unit Sentinel as well. So if you wanted to play Protector but didn't want to have double blue as your aspect combo, you can have this instead if you wanted to. And then you got some pretty nice events. Like, you got some pretty cool ones that kind of give boosts to units. So you got a new one being Guarding the Way, a 2-cost event that gives you a Sentinel to a unit. So you can choose any unit and give Sentinel to it. And if you have the initiative, that unit also gains 2 power and 2 health for that phase. So a temporary boost, but also gains Sentinel. And you got things like Covert Strength being a very nice one, being a 1-cost event that allows you to heal 2 damage from a unit and then give it an experience token. So you're essentially giving it 3 extra health because you're healing 2 from it, giving experience, which gives it an extra 1 health for 1 power. So powering it up while also healing it. And also, there's a card that you can smuggle, which is a keyword for set 2. That allows you to play it from your resources by playing its smuggle cost, and in this case being free and having Vigilance trait. Aspect. And then one nice thing, kind of one big benefit to Vigilance, is it's got a lot of events that allows you to do defeat units. And now, as I said, when we're discussing about Rival's Fall, it kind of varies because you've got things like Takedown here being a 4-cost event, so a very cheap one, allows you to defeat any unit, being leader or non-leader, as long as it's got 5 or less remaining HP. So you can either weaken something that's out of the range, or have something that's in the range and just take it out straight away. You also got Fell the Dragon, which allows you to defeat any non-leader unit, as long as it's got 5 or more power. So it's you normally add that to decks to allow you to take out their bigger things that your opponent might play. Then you got Rival's Fall as well, which is a 6-cost event that allows you to take out any unit regardless. And this is what kind of power crept out Vanquish. Vanquish being a 5-cost event that allows you to take out any non-leader unit without fail. But now, by paying 1 more, you can take out any leader, any unit, including leaders with this. So that's what you get access to in Vigilance. That's just what she gives you inherently. And now I've tried not to include any clones, but I did have to include it for this one because there's not many great non-villainy or non-heroic units in blue that you might want to always play. But you got some very good cards outside the units in blue. Like, these kind of benefits you get from just having that assay. Now we're going to go to what the other aspects provide you, given what base you choose. So we're going to go in aspect order, and we're going to start with command. And this is one of the kind of this is one of the aspect combinations that is the most played or most strongest, probably I would say, for the villainy side. So blue-green is one of the strongest aspect combinations for the green side, because obviously some really powerful stuff. So for the dark side here, which we're going over first, you got some very, very powerful units and events as well. So with the bases, if you want to go for a base, you can have like the rare bases here, being Energy Conversion Lab, allowing you to play out any unit at 6 or less. Still paying its cost, remember, but given Ambush, which is a trait, which is a keyword skill that allows you to ready and then straight away attack into an opposing unit with that same unit. So normally when you play a unit, you play it in rested, exhausted, but with Ambush, it allows you to ready it straight away and attack into your opponent's units straight after it's been played, so you can kind of attack straight away. Not to opponent's base, but one of the units to kind of clear the board and kind of manage it quite nicely, which makes it one of the best keywords in the game. And then you got Droid Manufacturing, which is a pretty cool one. It's really helpful for getting more units on play for Exploit when a new trait keywords in set 3, or have access to more units on board that kind of trigger Coordinate, because when you deploy this, when you deploy NASA, which you do as early as turn 3, you get 2 battle droid tokens, which mainly is there for either exploit or coordinate because they're only 1/1 units. Now with that as well, you got some pretty cool cards. You got some early ones you can play like Poggle the Lesser or Super Laser Technician. Poggle being a nice one you can play turn 1, which means anytime after while he's on board, whenever you play a unit, you can rest him to play a battle droid token, which is great to kind of trigger things like coordinate or just have more units in play to kind of get around things like Power Dioxide or just like coordinate or exploit. Then you also got Super Laser Tech, which is one of the few ramp cards we've got. I think we've got a couple more ramp cards given since we got more sets, but it's one of the prominent ones and why the dark side has the better ramp, because not only does it have access to resupply and command like any either heroic or the villainy sides can use, but it has its only one in Super Laser Technician, which is probably one of the best ways to ramp because it's a free cost unit, a 2/1 to its stats, but when it's defeated, you put into play as a resource and ready it. So you have it as a resource ready to use straight away, whereas the other ramp cards normally have it come in rested, whereas this is the one of the unique ones that comes in play ready to use straight away. Not only that, but you've got some very powerful units like Mole and Vader. They do similar things because they're both 7 costs, both force units, both very good stats, both have ambush, but differ slightly after that. Because in stats, they're slightly different in that Vader is a 5 power 7 health, whereas Mole is a 7 power 6 health. So Mole kind of have like better stats. Mole also has Overwhelm, so it does piercing damage, meaning excess damage dealt to a unit is dealt to their base. And they have differences in their effects. So when Vader is played, you can look at the top 10 cards of your deck and play any number of villainy units with a combined cost of 3 or less and play them out for free. So that means when you play Vader, you can look at the top 10 cards of your deck and either play 3 villainy 1-drops, one 1-drop and 1 2-drop villainy units, or 1 big 3-drop villainy unit from the top 10 cards of your deck, which means you get 2 units out for 1, or potentially even more units out for 1, and there's some pretty good targets you can have with Vader as well. Vader being nice because it just ambushes the unit, comes out ambushes, very good stats, puts more things on board as well, and basically adds to the board presence, also clearing stuff off board before it can potentially do anything. And then you got Mole doing the same thing, but its effect is when it attacks, basically, essentially, you may choose another friendly underworld unit, so it has that underworld trait, which he does himself, and you can play some with underworld. And if any combat damage dealt to Mole from that attack, you can deal to the chosen unit instead. So you can essentially choose one of your ever weaker underworld units, play Mole, then use his ambush and attack, then choose another underworld unit, and any damage Mole will take from that attack would be dealt to that unit, where if it would normally like kill Mole or do a lot of damage to him, it would do a lot of damage to the other unit and keep Mole alive and healthy, so that way it's clear to deal, survive another day and another turn to kind of wreak more havoc. And then in the bigger, even higher end of that, like the very high cost of cards, and more like space units, are the big spaceships in the dark side. So they got some very big spaceships, as we saw with Avenger. We've got things like a Relentless, allowing you to have once again, just like Relentless, a 9 cost 8/8. But this one have an effect where the first event your opponent will play, so like there are kind of spells and stuff like that, it has no ability. So it means if they have to waste playing it like a cheaper event, just so they can play their proper event to kind of maybe deal with this or do something, which is a very powerful effect, good for against those high control decks. And you got Devastator, be a 10 cost 10/10, so very big and powerful card. I have in Sentinel, so your opponent has to go through it before it can go to any of your space units or your base from the space arena. Overwhelm, so it does a lot of piercing damage because it's a high 10/10, and when it's played, it allows you to deal damage to a unit equal to the number of resources you control, which is typically going to be minimum 10 when you play it, or if you cheap it out, however many resources you have, dealt to a unit which is normally going to tick out something. Very powerful space units, and one of the big benefits of the dark side. And now for the events as well, you also have some powerful events like Overwhelm Barrage and Palpatine's Return. Be a very powerful one. Overwhelm Barrage being one of the scariest and strongest events in the game, because while it's a 5 cost, quite expensive, it allows you to give a 2/2 boost to any unit, so extra 2 power and 2 health to a unit for the turn. And then, straight after, that unit that you chose to boost up then deals its power as damage among any units on the board. So essentially, if you give, say, Mole's on board, and you use this on Mole to give it a 2/2 boost, it then it goes from a 7/6 to a 9/8, and then you get to deal 9 damage, because that's Mole's now attack, across the board, however you like. Very, very powerful. And you have Palpatine's Return being a 6 cost event, allow you to play any unit from your discard pile, and it costs 6 less, So essentially, playing something, using this event to play something from your drop that you've already used up and lost, bringing it back to the board. But if it's in a force unit, it costs 8 less instead. So either a card normally costs 6 less, so the cost of the card, or it's a force unit that costs 8 less, so you can play out like Vader, Mull, or even like Snoke as well for free from your discard pile after it's been taken out. It's a very good way to kind of get more copies of these cards from the discard pile. Now for the non-dark side of command, you've got these ones. So you've got some pretty nice ones here. And I've just realized I included the, Tactical Republic. I've just realized I was looking at it thinking that's a right card, it doesn't work, but it is a clone, so it does work as well. Remember, because if anything's got the clone aspect, it, the clone trait, not aspect, it ignores the aspect penalty with Nalase. And these are the ones you have, so you have some pretty cool units you can have, like Tactical Republic Officer, which is a good one for clones, as long as you've got more Republic units. It's kind of being some traits do have this now, where they've got Rebel, like this kind of effect, where you can have the effect to allow you to attack with a unit, and if it's got a certain trait or something like that, it gains an extra bit of power to attack, so it attacks for more than it would normally, which is pretty cool. And you've got things like Confam being a unit which can keep units on play to kind of trigger like things like Coordinate or keep things around, so you've always got a unit in play. By when it's defeated, because it's a free cost 3/2, when it's defeated, you can look at the top 10 cards of your deck and discard any 2 costs or less unit from them. And then any point during that turn, that same phase, you can play it from your drop for free, the one you discarded. So say you find a Tactical Republic Tactical Officer from top 10, you can discard it. Then any point during that phase, you can play it for free from your discard out onto the board. You also have 501st Liberator, being another very nice one, free cost 3/3, very good stats for its cost. But then when it's played, if you control a Republic unit, you can heal 3 damage from your base. A nice bit of heal there. And adds even more being a clone. If Nalase is deployed, it will heal when it's defeated as well. Then you have some nice big ones like Reinforcement Walker, being a very good one for its stats, for its cost. 8 cost 6/9. But when it's played or when it attacks, you do the top card of your deck and either draw a card or discard a card from your base discard it to heal 3 damage for your base. So it's pretty nice. Basically, a big units you got there, and also remember you got the vanilla bases, which basically mean that you just have whatever nice looking one you want or one you prefer. And you got some nice events and upgrades as well. Like you got Strategic Acumen being a pretty nice one, and pretty a good one to add for Nalase as well, because it's a 1 cost upgrade that gives you 2 extra health, so turning Nalase from 1/7 to a 1/9. And there's a nice effect where by tapping the unit, you can play a unit from your hand, and it costs 1 less. You basically play out something cheaper or a turn ahead. So it's a nice one for Nalase because it's a way to keep her around longer by boosting her health and making use of her. Because with 1 damage, she's not going to do much. She's going to swing 1 damage to base. It's not much really. In the long run, it might accumulate up, but normally she's going to be sat there, basically providing you that extra effect of allowing your clones to heal your base essentially. But putting this on her, when she deploys so quickly, means you can start playing out things things a little bit cheaper, or a turn ahead, which is pretty cool, while keeping her around a little bit longer because of her health. So a pretty nice one you can have for Nalase, and you've got some pretty nice events as well. You've got Tiny Invention being a way to incorporate the ECL base, Energy Version Lab, into an event, which is a 1 cost event. And you play a unit from your hand and give ambush, but remember you still got to pay the cost of the card, and also you can smuggle it out as well if you want to by resourcing it, smuggle it out, saving it for later. You also got Resupply being a nice way to ramp as well, because it's a 3 cost event, allows you to put this in play as an event. So a never ramp goes really well with Super Laser Technician if you want to ramp up to get more resources to play bigger things out quicker. And even then you've got In Defense of Camino. It's a 4 cost event that for this phase, each friendly Republic unit, which is a lot of the clones, gain Restore 2, so when they swing they get heal 2 from your base. And whenever they're defeated, you create a new Clone Trooper token. So if you create a Clone Trooper token, which is also a Republic, so if that's then defeated, that then also creates a Clone Trooper token, which is pretty cool. It's a nice way to keep units on board while then pushing through and even healing your base with if you've got a lot of Republic units as well. So as a command, that's probably one of the good ways to play Nalase, because you've got a lot of good cards in the aspect combination, and on top of that, having also the clones as well for more options could be a very good way to play her. Next, we have Aggression. Now, this is a one that is also pairs very well with Vigilance, because you've got the healing and protection from the blue aspect, and then the aggression and damage that you throw about with Aggression as well. And now, like we said, with the bases, you got Target Town or Shadow Collective Camp. Actually, Target Town's a very nice one because if you try to take out a unit that's not a leader and you just fall just short of doing the damage to it, Target Town can help you finish it off once a game, which is pretty useful. And given that you've got a lot of healing in blue, you can kind of mitigate the fact it's got 25 health base by adding healing to kind of make it so if you take a lot of damage, heal it off to kind of mean that you've got more health given the game than you normally would. You also got Shadow Collective Camp. This could be a nice one because where Nalase deploys so early, you early as free resources. You can use this to kind of draw cards. You can gain more cards, have more options to make use of her deploying so early, and also having more options as well. Also, the dark side, you have quite a few nice cards. Now, you can't gain as much benefit in Nalase with the dark side of the cards because a lot of force units and a lot of like Imperials and stuff like that. But you still have some pretty good ones. Like you've got some pretty nice ground units like Mole, the new Mole Legendary, and Count Dooku. Dooku would be a nice one where you can, like, if you get out loads of units or loads of like clones, you can kind of defeat them to use Exploit 2 to bring out Dooku cheaper. So bring out Dooku rather than as 8 cost 6/6 as a 4 cost 6/6 potentially. And it comes down with Overwhelm as well. And when played, if you do use Exploit to bring it out cheaper, for each unit you did exploit by playing this card, you can deal damage equal to that unit's power to one of your opponent's enemy units. So if you exploited 2 units, you can then deal each of those exploited units' power to one of your opponent's units. You can deal, like, say, if you exploited a unit that had 3 power, when it had 2 power, you can do 3 damage to one and then another 2 damage to it, or 2 damage. You basically do 5 damage total to units on board, like 3 to 1, 2 to whatever, or both to 1 unit, I think, which is pretty cool. And you got Mole, which is a nice one because he's got like quite a unique effect. Because he's a 5 cost 5/6, which is pretty good stats for its cost. But when he battles, when he attacks, he can attack 2 units instead of 1. So normally when you attack a unit, you normally attack 1 at a time. Like your 1 unit attacks 1 every unit. But Mole, given like given the flavor in this game with how he is in the film, because it's him from the film, Phantom Menace, he attacks 2 units at the same time. So you can attack 2 units at the same time, you can 5 damage to both. But then they deal their power back to him simultaneously as well. So if they can potentially do 6 damage to him together, they'll take him out. But it's just nice that you can take out 2 units at the same time. So rather than do 2 actions, they go attack, you can do it in 1 with Mole, which is really cool. You also got some very good space units in the aggression side of for the dark side aggression. You got Kylo's TIE Silencer being a very good one for stats. If it is discarded from your hand, you can play it from your discard. Thanks to that, so it's like anti-hand control. And it's a very good. It's got good stats for its cost. It's a 2 cost 3/2, which is very good stats for its cost. You also got Punishing one, which has got the Millennium Falcon. That's the one stats. Be a 3 cost 3/4. And if you defeat anything, if one of your opponent's units has an upgrade on it, is defeated, you get to ready it once around, which is pretty good. So getting like a second attack to defeat something your opponent had that's upgraded. You also have some Confederates TIE Fighter, which is a 3 cost 3/3, but has a nice effect where your opponent's bases can't be healed. That's both yours and your opponent's. But your opponent's trying to heal and you're trying to be aggressive. This is a very nice one to prevent them from healing the damage you're doing and have to deal with this if they want to heal. You also have Imperial Interceptor, which is a good one against space, because it's a 4 cost 3/2. It's not the best stat. It's like double the cost of Kylo's Titans with the same stats, but when it's played, you deal 3 damage to a space unit. So you can take one of your opponent's space units without attacking. And then you got Ruthless Vader being a very nice one for the later game. 6 cost 4/6, but when it's played or defeated, you deal 2 damage to both one of your opponent's units and their base as well. So it's deal 2 damage to the unit and to the base, and when it's defeated, do the same thing again. Now, you also get Force Stroke, is a pretty nice one. A nice way to kind of deal a lot of damage for cheap. Is a 2 cost event that allows you to deal 5 damage to a non-vehicle unit, so a non-space unit, and a ground unit is not a vehicle. But if you do, that controller's unit draws a card. So you can deal 5 damage to one opponent's unit, and they draw a card if you do it on theirs, or you can do it on your own, but more likely you want to do it to your opponents. But if you control a Force unit, it costs 1 less. It could be a 1 cost event if you control a Force unit, but if you don't, still 2 costs. They do 5 damage to let your opponent draw a card. Drawing a card is not bad, especially when you're using it to take out one of your opponent's units. And that's the aggressive side, or the dark side of aggression. And for the non-dark side of aggression, you got these units, these cards as well, which are pretty good examples. You also remember you got the 30 health base, which basically depends on what art you like for it. But you got some pretty nice units like Wolf and Clone Heavy Gunner. So Wolf would be nice when it's played or when you attack. Make it so bases can't be healed, so prevent your opponent from healing, so you can basically keep doing damage, not worry about the healing off and making it longer to take him out. And then you also got Clone Heavy Gunner, which if you've got more units, if you've got two other units include itself on the board, it gains an extra 2 power, so it becomes a 2-cost 3/3 if you got 2 other units with him. So pretty good there. You also got Heavy being a 4-cost 4/4. If you got 2 other units on board, it gives raid 2, so it swings for 6, which is pretty nice. And when it's defeated, you deal 1 damage to each enemy ground unit that's on the board. And you got some powerful units like Crate Dragon being a 9-cost 10/10. Very good one. Overarm as well, so it does piercing damage when it attacks a unit. And what's on board? Anytime your opponent played a card, no matter how many cards they play, you can deal the damage equal to the cost of the card they played to either their base or to one of their ground units. So either can manage their ground unit with this effect, or keep dealing it to the base to kind of help defeat them. Not only that, but you also got some pretty nice events in it, like you've got Precision Fire, pretty cool one, which is a 1-cost that gives more benefit now. You've got the the token units and more clones and stuff like that, because mostly all the clones and all the token units, most of the clones and most of the droids all have the trooper trait. And this is a 1-cost event that allows you to attack with a unit, give it Saboteur, so it means it ignores Sentinel if it's on board, and defeats Shield when it attacks a unit that has shields for that attack. And then if it's a trooper, which once again is all the token units, most of the clones and most of the droids, it gets an extra 2 power for that attack. So essentially this is like having a almost like a surprise attack, but a benefit given a certain trait. So a pretty nice one to make use of all the clones that now say can play regarding the aspect, or disregarding the aspect. You also got some nice events like Open Fire, a 3-cost event allows you to deal 4 damage to a unit, pretty cool. Pillage being a 4-cost event allows you to make any player, or more like mostly an opposing player, discard 2 cards from hand. And then you got Bombing Run, which is a nice way to kind of help deal with a arena. Now you get to choose, you either choose the ground arena or space arena, and whichever one you choose, you deal 3 damage to all units, yours and your opponent's, in that arena. Now if you're spamming out loads of ground units, you're not going to do it that, but if your opponent is jumping into space and going quite wide in space, you can use this to kind of deal 3 damage to all the space units if you choose that arena. It's a really nice one. This is one that could pair very well as well. You got the benefit of Provision Fire and some nice nice space units in the dark side as well. So this could be a pair very nice. It's probably one of these. That's probably a second best aspect combination from the dark side for this kind of aspect, blue and red. Now that brings us to the last of the aspect combinations you can get by combining a base with your lead, and that is Cunning. So for the dark side of it, you got some pretty nice ones. Like this is an aspect that is more focused on the underworld and the more underworld and bounty hunter stuff. Because it started off in that way in set 1. In set 1, it was like most of them were bounty hunters and more about focus with the units and leads. And then given the theme of set 2, it kind of continued it on. But even with set 3, you still got some. Even though you've got less of the underworld, you got more like droids and like Republic and Separatists. You still got some pretty good cards for that. But you got some pretty nice ones. Like you got some cheap units in Bazine and Cartel Spacer, being for either different arena. Bazine being a nice control one, especially for turn 1. Now you look at your opponent's hand and discard a card from it, any card you choose, but then you replace it. But still, you get look at your hand, opponent's hand, have some hand knowledge, and also rip out a card you don't want them to have. Maybe rip out their only card they play turn 1, so they kind of, if they don't draw into a new card they can play turn 1, have nothing to do turn 1, you've done something, you know what they can play. Or you can rip out a card you don't want them to have, and then they give them a new card, but now they've lost a copy of that card you don't want them to have. You also got Cartel Spacer being a card that when you play it, if you control another cunning unit in play, you can rest something that costs 4 or less, which is pretty useful. You got some other good space units like 7th Fleet Defender and Lurking Side Phantom. Both good units because 7th Fleet Defender has pretty good stats. 3 cost 3/2, becomes shielded, so it has that effect to. It has a shield, meaning that the first time it takes damage, it will lose a shield instead. Nice to get a bit of protection. And you also got Lurking Side Phantom, which is a nice unit, which is a 3 cost 2/2, not the best stats. Has raid 2, so when it attacks, swings for 4 instead of just 2. But it's also got a nice benefit of it can't be damaged, defeated, or captured by your opponent's card abilities. So if your opponent wants to use an effect to deal damage to it, capture it, or defeat it, it won't work. So they have to do it by normal bounce it to hand or actual damage, which if you can stop them from getting the unit to take it out, it's going to keep wreaking havoc where your opponent can't deal with it. Very problem card, which is very good to put in. You also got things like Jabba. Jabba's a nice little unit that allows you to play trick events, trick events cheaper, because a 4-cost 2/8, very good bulky stats to make it last longer. When it comes down, it allows you to look at the top 8 cards of your deck for a trick event to kind of add it and draw it, so it's kind of searching for trick events, and makes them cost 1 less you play. And there's a lot of trick events in the game mainly across Cunning, but also in different aspects you can play out and get a little bit cheaper for it. But it's just a good example there as like a pretty nice card. And you've got also some really good events, like Cunning has probably some of the a lot more events than it has units that are good. So you've got things like No Good to Be Dead, which is a nice one, because how the turns work in this game is normally you'd have at the start of the turn is when you draw, untap, and normally draw, charge, and untap everything. So normally like draw your cards, resource a card, and then untap everything. But in Star Wars, it's reversed. So at the end of the turn is when you would. So when you finish your turn, that's when you draw, untap, and then draw, resource something, and untap, and then jump to the next turn. So at the end of the turn is when you do that. So it means that with No Good to Be Dead, it allows you to exhaust the unit, and then it can't ready that phase, which means at the end of the turn when you would normally ready that card, it can't because of this effect. And then when you go to the next turn, it's still there and rested, so you can essentially keep something tapped down for 2 turns with this card. So it's very handy, especially when you put it into Poison Leader. Keep it tapped down, tap it down for that turn, then make it so it's tapped down for 2, another turn after that, so you can kind of have the time to deal with it before it gets to do what it wants to do. You also have some pretty nice ways to kind of play out units for cheaper for different areas. So you've got Triple Dark Raid and Unnatural Life. 2 events that are both 3-cost events that allows you to play something from a different area that's your hand and kind of have it ready to attack, but then they come off the board after. So like Triple Dark Raid is mainly for vehicles, which you have a lot of good ones in. A lot of good options for it. So you look at top 7 cards of your deck to find a vehicle card. It costs 5 less, and enters play ready, so you can pay something that's 5 or less for free, or pay a bit more, few more resources on top of it to put something bigger for cheaper. And then so it comes in ready, so you can attack straight away with it to your opponent's base or units. But then at the end of the turn, it returns back to your hand. Now, Unnatural Life is one that you pay more than its actual cost if you play it normally, but you play it from your discard. So it's play a unit that was defeated this phase. So it's got to have defeated this phase from your discard pile. It costs 2 less for this phase, and then it's play ready. But then at the end of the turn, it gets defeated again. So if it was defeated this phase, you can play it back out, paying 1 more than its normal cost, essentially in total, and then you can at the end of the turn, it ends ready, so you can attack again with it. But then it's defeated at the end of the turn. So it's nice to kind of like force more things out and ready, so you can kind of finish off and do that last bit of damage you want to do to your opponent's base, but they have drawbacks at the end of it. And then we also have some non-Villainy Cunning cards that are pretty good. And you got a few good examples here, like you've got some clones as well. So you got Greedo and Omega's some good turn 1 plays. Like Greedo being a very nice one. At 1 cost, 3/1, while not bulky, it's still powerful and cheap. 3 power at 1 cost, really good. And when it's defeated, you can discard the top card of your deck. If it's not a unit, so if it's either an event or an upgrade, you can deal 2 damage to a ground unit. You also got Omega as well, like we discussed. Is a nice one you play turn 1 at 2 cost 2/2. When it's played, it looks at the top 5 cards of your deck to find a clone, reveal it, and draw it to your hand. So it helps you find all those clone units you have in your deck that you're kind of using. Like mainly you're playing your deck with Nalase as your leader because of the benefit to play any clone in it regardless of the aspect. So having this to kind of find any clones you want to find is pretty handy. And you've got some other clones that you can play in the late game, being like Hidden Sharpshooter, being a 4-cost 3/4/3. That's also got Ambush, so pretty nice there. So you can come in and attack straight away to it's played. And you got 5s as well, being a nice way to recycle your clones and also get a bit of draw because it's a 5-cost 5/5 with Saboteur, so it ignores Sentinel and defeats shields when it attacks a unit. But when you play an event, which you have a lot of good ones in just Nalase's aspects and in Cunning itself, and you get to put a clone from your discard pile back to the bottom of your deck. And if you do, you draw a card. So you put something back in your deck at the bottom as a clone, recycling them, and then drawing a card to basically replace the event you play, which is pretty cool. You also got some nice cards. You got some nice upgrades, being Jetpack and Hotshot Blaster. And while Hotshot DL44 Blaster is not a Cunning card, and it's a red card. You might think that's in the wrong place. If you're playing this, you're not playing it as a red card. You're playing it as a yellow card, because while it's a 1-cost red upgrade that gives 2 power, you're always going to be using this as smuggle than as playing it normally. Because when you smuggle it, it requires the cunning aspect instead of the aggression one, so it requires yellow when you smuggle it instead of red. But then when you do smuggle it as well, you attack with the unit as well. So normally you would take 2 actions to equip this, normally by paying 1 and giving 2 power to a unit, and then attack. That's 2 actions. But you can do it all in one by playing cunning instead, because you can smuggle it. So pay 3 to smuggle it from your resources onto a unit, and then because you smuggled it, you get attack with the unit straight away. So rather than playing it red and have to do 2 actions to do like a cheaper thing, it's cheaper in red, but requires 2 actions. Where in yellow it does the same thing, a little bit more expensive at 3 instead of 1, but does 2 actions in 1, which is very good for your action economy. And you got Jetpack, which is a really nice one for a 2-cost event. It gives you 2 powers, so a bit more expensive than DL44 Blaster. But it can also be smuggled out, and also when played, it gives a shield token to the unit you attach it to. So it gives a shield that means that the next damage it would take, you lose the shield instead. But at the end of the turn, you will then lose the shield. So it's a temporary shield just for the turn. But that's fine if you want to mainly put on the unit to boost that unit's power and make it so it's got a shield, so it's protected once for that turn. So you can then either swing trade with your opponent's unit, but then lose your shield instead, while they potentially lose the unit, or make sure you can safely swing to the base without it being taken out before it gets to do so. So very good upgrades there. And you got some pretty nice events as well, like Swoop Down and Sneak Attack. Sneak Attack being similar to Triple Dark Raid and Unnatural Life, where you can play out a unit cheaper, but it comes in ready so it can attack straight away to your opponent's base or units, but has a downside at the end of it. Now this is during your 2-cost event that allows you to play a unit from your hand and it make it cost 3 less for this turn. So you're playing a unit for 1 less. It comes in ready, but at the end of the turn it gets defeated. So it doesn't matter if you're gonna basically finish off the game with it, which is a very good reason why this card is played. Or if the card has a when defeated, it's going to trigger at the end of the turn, which is going to benefit you. That's a good way to play it. But it's more, it can be used to kind of play out something inactive so you can attack straight away to your opponent's base and finish them off. You also got Swoop Down, which if you use a lot of space units, you can use this to attack and cross the barrier from arenas. Because normally if you're attacking, only space can attack space and ground can attack ground. But you've got this and another unit as well that can break those rules thanks to effects. Because this allows you, for 1, to attack with a space unit. It gains Saboteur, so you can ignore shields and ignore Sentinels and shields, and attack a ground units for less attack. So now for this attack, you can attack a space unit into a ground unit, and if it does attack a ground unit, the space unit you're attacking with gains 2 extra power, and the ground unit you're attacking loses 2 power. So essentially you can make a space unit attack your enemy ground unit, and you're now stronger and they're now weaker when they clash, which is pretty cool. So it can help you control the ground unit from space and make the battle more in your favor when it comes to exchanging damage. So that's all the options for Cunning. Like, I don't show every single option because it'd be too much to go in depth. But Cunning is a good way to play it, giving you all these nice options as well from these aspects. Then that brings us to the last few cards, which is literally the Villainy cards. Because remember, as I said, there are cards in this in the game that are just Villainy and just heroism. And for Villainy cards, the ones that kind of benefit now say aren't that many. There aren't many because in the first set is all around Imperial and Rebel for each different sides, and even for set 2, it was once again it's focused on Shadows of the Galaxy, so it'll be Underworld, so very very less reliant on a certain aspect, but more across different ones and kind of just generic basic cards. And even in set 3, they're more focused on the Separatists and Republic traits. So heroic ones are more Republic focused, and then the dark side ones are more Separatist focused. So there's not many that can get a good benefit from that, but these are the 3 that I thought were probably the best you can use if you're going to incorporate them. You got Black Sun Starfire mainly because it's there as a Sentinel. So like with it's basically a 3-cost 3/2 Sentinel for space, which is very handy. And you've got Hellfire Tank, which is a 8-cost 7/6, but has exploits, so you can kill off some of your weaker units to then play this out cheaper, so potentially make it cheapest a 4-cost 7/6, which is pretty cool. And there's also you've got Merciless Contest, which, as we saw, you've got examples of like a Parallax Side, which forces your opponent to choose a unit they control to defeat it. And this is like an extra copy. Essentially, you make both you and your opponent choose a non-leader unit and defeat them. Now, it's a little bit less, not as great because it doesn't affect leaders, but and it makes both you and your opponent defeat one of your units. But if you got no units your opponent does, this is making them kill a unit without you killing something. And what doesn't hit a leader is extra removal, which is really, really cool. So these are the 3 Villainy cards I thought were handy to put in that you could actually incorporate with Nalase as well. And then that brings us to the end of the video. Well, come to the end of the video, and these are this is something I thought I'd include as well for the new ones, because this wasn't something I included in the previous series of the in previous versus series, being the first set and the second set. But people did kind of ask in some of the videos what my preferred aspects are for each leader, so I thought I'd incorporate with set 3 to go over what my preferred aspects are. I thought I'd go over the 2 because there's 4 different combinations you can have, and what my preferred aspect combos are for these leaders. So for now, let's say my preferred aspects would be, first and foremost, it would be the blue and green versions, because you've got access to nice things like strategic acumen to boost up Nalase's stats to make her stay on the field when she deploys better, and allow you then to use Nalase to then play out things cheaper, so you're playing ahead of the curve like Han Solo does. You also then have access to things like Overwhelm Barrage and Palpatine's Return as very powerful events to help you control the board and just have a very good like control game while you play out your clone units. And then the other way I prefer to play is in Cunning, because you get things like if you're playing for a focused on clones due to Nalase's effect, you get access to Omega to come in, and basically you can do this. Well, you can do this in any aspect combination, but you then get Omega to basically come in and like search for your clones. You get sneak attack, like you plague some clones in, like Wrecker and stuff like that, and come in active so you can attack straight away. And even then, Hotshot Blaster allow you to attack with your units even stronger. Like Hotshot Blaster being a very, very strong upgrade and more beneficial in Cunning than it is its own aspect, which is pretty cool. So these are the aspect combinations I will play when it comes to it. I don't have a list, but I'm going to try and get some lists done, instead of videos, some deck profiles done of some of the leaders, and go over what my lists are that I'm looking to try out for my locals with these, because we don't have any galactic planetary qualifiers until January now. So just basically going to be playing locally and testing out in preparation for those events come up next year. And then that brings us to the end of the video. So that is it. So hopefully that's helped you understand how to build Nalase. So when you go to try out as a leader, you can place your player to the best you ability and to a playstyle that suits you best. And let me know if you do build it and what your lists are. If you have some fun with it, it'd be nice to see how people have utilized this video and helpful advice to kind of build this leader. So that's it from me today. Thank you for watching. Remember to feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next one, which will be going over Nuke Gunnery next. So bye for now.
Like a boss.